Hi, so today I want to talk about the idea of a hive mind. So, a hive mind would be a being, a mind that would be composed of many different separate minds, usually in many different locations in many different bodies. So, the strangest thing to me when thinking about hive minds is that one day in the future, we as human beings could become hive minds. And that would, we see beginnings of this possibly happening in some way with Neuralink, this technology of brain machine interfaces that your brain can send some instructions to a machine. The machine could fulfill the instructions and also give feedback input into your own brain, so communication between you and the machine. And first of all, it would be used for illnesses and diseases. But as it gets more and more advanced, there will become possibilities of brain to brain communication. That would be direct brain to brain communication, which would be something like telepathy. If we would have such capacity, then by that time, any of our old primitive instincts and drives would die down. If two people in a conflict could truly understand each other's mind and where the other person is coming from. So someone offends you, but then you understand that the person offending you had a bad day on top of having a bad life, and all the influences that led them to the point of, being rude to you when maybe they didn't even intend to be rude to you, but that's what you got from them. And so much suffering in our lives is due to miscommunication, the inability for people to truly communicate, because we have these things called egos. These are barriers that prevent true heart-to-heart communication. Whenever you're speaking to someone, most people, except people really close to you, maybe your soulmate or significant other, or someone in your family, all other people you always have some kind of barrier with. So you're not truly sharing your most genuine feelings and thoughts and emotions. There is always information and feelings left out, and misunderstandings and conflict comes from those missing pieces of information, that if you had those missing pieces of information, there would be no miscommunication. There would no be getting offended or getting angry if people truly understand each other. And now put that on a global scale, when every single human being could speak to every single other human being on the planet. Now, obviously, any technology like that would advance little by little. So at first we would have trials with just like 2 people, then maybe 10 people, and so on and so forth, depending how, receptive people are to this new technology. It depends, of course, on exactly how that technology would work, but it definitely would be a supremely weird experience. If you have ever tried psychedelics, then you can have experiences of, what seem like telepathy. When you're exactly on the same wavelength, you're having the same experience, and your minds are basically connected because you have a really strong rapport with the other person. The deeper you go into this experience with another person, the more in tune you become with them and they with you. And so after long enough time passes and you have similar experiences, then you both think the same thoughts to the point where you can express complex ideas just by moving your hand a certain way, or blinking your eyes or whatever. If there would come a time when truly every human being could be connected to any other human being, maybe it would work something like the internet. Obviously it would be overwhelming to our human brain to have the entire 7+ billion people connected to our brains. Obviously that would be overwhelming by our own biological brains. There might be some sort of upgrades that we would do, some technology added to our brains that would give us more bandwidth, more capacity. Now, of course, we're going in the territory of transhumanism and posthumanism, of enhancing our brains with artificial intelligence to be much faster and to have just higher problem-solving abilities, just pure intelligence attributes. So it would be really difficult to talk about having a hive mind without talking about these augmentations and technologies that would make our minds run faster. But it would be a truly profound experience. It would kind of work something like the internet. We can communicate, at least in idea, with every single other being on the planet, and see just how much this itself has changed human life forever. And it's been around for so little time, and yet we all are more connected than ever before. A brain-to-brain interface, a hive mind, would absolutely change human condition forever. It would be unlike anything else. A question arises, obviously, what then would be identity? who would be you if you we're talking a lot about psychedelics here because this truly is a trippy subject. If you ever had the experience of ego death, of losing your ego, when basically your name, your face, your age has no difference. What you are is just consciousness, pure consciousness, with no barriers, no ego blocking your way into connecting with everything in the world and in the universe ultimately. So there would be maybe that kind of a feeling for everyone experiencing the state of being in a hive mind, and it would be such a just totally different experience when we're talking about space of consciousness, of all possible conscious experiences. We have no idea how big the bubble is of potential conscious experiences, but I like to think of it that way, a space of consciousness. And then we have experiences of maybe some small creatures, and maybe have mammals, and inside here we are human beings. Different animals overlap in their consciousness, and with this technology you could basically encompass the entire sphere of possible conscious experience, possibly, depending of course on how advanced and fast and good the technology is. We could reach states of consciousness beyond anything we could currently imagine. And let me tell you, if you don't know, higher states of consciousness are definitely preferred and something that we should aspire towards. Not a profound spiritual experience, but even a higher state of consciousness would be getting lost in music, getting lost in making love, getting lost in, extremely blissful, just transcendent experiences that we can have as human being. Now imagine that, but on a much bigger scale, in time and in space, and that would be truly marvelous. If you never heard about the idea, then hearing this all at once might seem like complete madness, because it essentially is, but it is absolutely true and absolutely possible. I see no good reason why it shouldn't work. Of course, in reality, a way that we would most likely get to it would be gradually, step by step, the same way that we got the internet, even though the internet came quite suddenly when the first technologies were developed, and then they spread really quickly, and this would be the same thing with this. There are so many topics intertwined with this idea of a hive mind. One would be, of course, artificial intelligence, which I briefly mentioned. If we would connect with an artificial intelligence, that would be mind expanding by itself as well. And it might also be that if we do develop artificial general intelligence, which would turn to artificial super intelligence, might be really quickly, it could develop this hive mind technology for us. Now, a question about the individuality. What would it mean to be human then? That is a good question. Anytime we look to the future and augmenting ourselves or doing these kind of crazy transformations, I think we will seriously need to reconsider our priorities and what we value about life. I think we have to at one point all agree that what we are really looking for is just to be happier human beings and to have a better existence that is filled with more positive emotions than bad emotions. And if this kind of hive mind technology can provide that, then that would be a way to go. It would only happen in a point where it would become obvious to almost everyone that that is the right step to make. Again, to our minds currently, it would be almost incomprehensible unless you have some kind of ego death experience, but even then it would be beyond any sort of experience like that. What is fascinating to me is thinking about how technology could bring higher states of consciousness when before it was through meditation or psychedelics or some profoundly weird experience in your life. Now it could be technology that could give you a higher state of consciousness. Of course, by the time we have hive mind technology, then you working together, forget about it, these types of things. Humanity will change forever if we would be one organism. Countries would disappear, any aggressions would disappear, any differences between the rich and poor, and we would all truly understand each other on the most fundamental levels, that we are all human beings. And it's all essentially luck, which places in the world we occupy. If something was a little bit different, I wouldn't be here. If something was a little bit different, life on planet Earth by the day could be completely different. So hive mind technologies are fascinating to think about. I still didn't finish the thought about individuality. It is the question: do we want that? How much do you value that, you like to look at sunsets? How much do you value having your favorite color? How much do you value your favorite movies or the skills or, any things that you're interested in? How important is that to you? And to me, it's a really interesting question, because a primitive human side of me, we have evolved after all to think that our egos are the most important things ever. But there is more to human beings, much more. Most of human beings is just pure being and consciousness. However, how much fun could you have as pure consciousness? I do not know. It's a blissful state to be in, but would we all really want to hibernate in just being pure consciousness and doing nothing? So, there's a dilemma of, we would actually want to do stuff in the world. I think one way or another, our egos would begin to dissolve more and more, boundaries between us and other people. And definitely we would take ourselves less seriously the more we understand that, most things in the world are out of control. We didn't choose our parents, the place we were born. I talk about this a lot, but I talk about it a lot, mention it a lot, because it is important, especially when we talk about human beings and, psychology and life and meaning and all of these things. It's really important to have this sense of perspective that, we are not the ultimate causes of ourselves. Everything that made us us was events and circumstances not controlled by us. It was always the environment making us into who we are now. Even though we feel like we are the ultimate causes and authors of what we do and who we are, but that's just this feeling. Our world will change a lot in the next few decades, and it is just really interesting to think that we live in this time when we can see the beginnings of these kind of possibilities and technologies, and they will start to develop more rapidly, as all technology has the tendency to do, if you have noticed the trend of exponential growth of technology. But this is just some thoughts about Hive Minds, just ranting a little bit. It's a really interesting topic. We would have brought up examples of hive minds, ant colony, when alien life forms could develop as a hive mind, as one central brain controlling hundreds or thousands of different bodies across the world. Maybe their brain cells communicate with radio waves so they can spread across the entire planet. Beings we could not imagine floating in space and whatever fun kind of stuff. But it's a fun topic, and it's fascinating that so many ideas from science fiction kind of slowly and then faster move into our actual real world. So these are just some thoughts about Hive Mind. I hope there was something interesting here for you. If you have any thoughts, please share them in the comments. And of course, as always, thank you so much for watching. Take care.